Hey, for Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020, this is the Pro and Con Show, and I am your host, Michael James Ott. As always, welcome to the show. Encouraging people to be better citizens, to take in more information. Okay, it's important to be informed. All right. Today's show, I'm actually entitled it Supercomputer, but it's actually a bit of a update on COVID-19 from the standpoint that scientists are continuing to closely study this virus that's causing us so much trouble around the world, in our country, the United States, of course, being one of the countries that's one of the hardest hit by the effects of this virus. So there's a supercomputer at Oak Ridge National Lab in Tennessee, and they have spent a couple weeks here, it sounds like, crunching a bunch of information on the genes and genetic samples that they have been trying to study the novel coronavirus that causes COVID-19 illness. So this supercomputer is the second fastest in the world, but it still took about a week to do all this analysis with the information. And so before I go on any further, this is a pretty technical article, and I would encourage you, please, read the article. So you can Google, okay, supercomputer analyze COVID-19, and I'm sure you'll find this article right away. And what it is there's because of the supercomputer analysis, there's actually a strong hypothesis that's coming from this analysis about a wholly different mechanism than people were thinking up to this point about how coronavirus infects the human body and then ravages the human body. Okay. So I'm just going to hit some highlights here, but again, read the article yourself. Okay. Yes, it's a bit technical, but you can do it. Okay. So according to the findings of these scientists, the COVID-19 infection generally begins when the virus enters the body through receptors in the nose. Okay. And there's these specific receptors are very abundant in the nose and sinus area. So then the virus then proceeds to the body, entering cells in other places where the same sorts of receptors are, but less concentrated. And where are those? Well, if you've been following anything about Corona-19 illnesses, you find out that, well, wait a second, they actually, it's having effect on the lungs, on the intestines, on the kidneys, on the heart, and so on. So some of the places that are after the nose is infected are also the intestines, kidneys, and heart. And this likely accounts for at least some of the COVID-19 cardiac and gastrointestinal symptoms that we see. But then once this virus is fully established in the body, it says things start getting interesting. The analysis shows that it's not just simply staying in the cells with the receptors, but it actually hijacks the body's own systems, and it tricks the body into putting these same sort of receptors where they're not normally there very much, at low or medium levels, like the lungs. Okay. So the highlight here in the article, the analogy that they give is, in the sense, COVID-19 is a burglar who slips into your unlocked second floor window and starts to ransack your house. But they also, once they're inside, don't just take your stuff. They throw open all the doors and windows so that their accomplices can rush in and help pillage. So they get in, they get a certain place, and then they alter the cell makeups around them to gain even greater access to even more places that they normally couldn't be. So this is something that in what they're calling is a Bradykinin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's Brady, Kinin, Bradykinin. So there you end up with what they're calling a Bradykinin storm, which is a runaway buildup of bradykinin in the body, as opposed to they were talking about cytokine before. Let me find that hopefully. I'm not fine. Cyclocane storm. Anyway, yeah, cytokine storms. And then, so the cytokine storms were previously the hypothesis behind a lot of the problems that COVID-19 causes in patients. But they too actually could be interlinked in some way. So the bottom line is, as the bradykinin builds up in the body, you get this increase in vascular permeability. So your veins and arteries get more permeable, and that makes your blood vessels basically leaky. And this has to do with, you get all of the fluids and stuff, and clots and all this other stuff are going on. And then on top of this, the COVID-19 has another trick up its sleeve. So it increases production of something called hyaluronic acid. And hyaluronic acid is often used in soaps and lotions because it's able to hold fluid and it forms a gel. And so what's going on here is that this hyaluronic acid is being formed in the body and in the lungs, for example. Then the fluids are being absorbed and you end up with these coatings of gel, basically. And so this one researcher's quote is saying it's like trying to breathe through a layer of jello inside your lungs. And it's jello, so it's not flowing or whatever. You can't like cough it out. So it just sits there just like jello, if you imagine jello coating the inside of your lungs. So the same hypothesis explains a lot of the effects on the heart. It also accounts for effects, neurological effects, because you basically are able to penetrate the brain body barrier and start affecting the brain. What I'm trying to get down to is there's some certain drugs and inhibitors of some of these active sites then that are associated with this formation and spread of this bradykinin material, and so they can be used in theory to try to fight this. So I'm coming down here. They talk about. I'm trying to find what they're talking about, because at some point here they talk about, okay. So the researchers then are pointing out that there are several drugs that are available that help with everything I've been describing. And they could arguably be applied to treating COVID-19. So some of them, and there's some names here, danazol, stanozolol, echolantide, and so on. They all help suppress this bradykinin signaling and bradykinin formation and so on. Now here's the thing that I wanted to make sure you're aware of. So they suggest that vitamin D is a potential useful COVID-19 drug. The vitamin has been involved, the vitamin helps interrupt some of this deadly cycle with these storms. And it has been shown, and some observation, again, limited numbers and stuff like that up to this point, but vitamin D looks like it could be helpful and it has been helpful to people that are suffering from COVID-19. This vitamin is readily available over the counter, and unfortunately about 20% of the population is actually deficient in vitamin D. So if indeed the vitamin provides effective reduction in the severity of these storms, it would be an easy and relatively safe way to reduce the variety of the severity of these viruses if you are infected. And so I again read the article in whole and total. Okay, I'm challenging you to be better citizens. But I specifically want to mention this because when the coronavirus thing was coming on the global stage back in February and March, I went and I started reading articles about things that generically tried to help protect people against things that protect people from viruses, just kind of generically. And one of the things that came up was a lot of people, apparently 1 in 5 people, are fairly deficient in vitamin D. And then I read also that vitamin B can sometimes be helpful and so on. So what I did is I went to one of the major chains of drugstores, and I bought their daily vitamin that has strong or high concentrations of vitamin D, vitamin B, and so on, and I started taking it one a day, and I've been taking them ever since, and step by step, with the hope and the potential belief that if I should be infected at some point, hopefully it will help my body fight off the disease much better than the average 59-year-old person, okay? And only time will tell, and of course, if I get it and I do not get very sick, I personally will be thinking, well, hopefully it was somehow associated with taking these vitamins, but I won't have proof, it's just a sample of one. Could be any number of explanations for why I didn't get all that sick with this, but we'll see. But the whole point behind this is the average American can go out and get some of these vitamins and start taking them, because just generically, as I found out in previous articles and now more and more evidence that COVID-19, kind of follows in this train, is to get out there and protect yourself against viruses in general with some basic things that people can do that are known and safe to protect them, like taking one of these multiple vitamins with vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin B, and so on in them. Okay? All right, so that's the supercomputer giving us some insights and hopefully step by step on some better treatments and cures for COVID-19. And this show has been the Pro and Con Show. I am your host, Michael James Ott. And until the next show, bye for now.